The morning after the night before, Arsenal through to the final eight of the Champions League. Apologies, I didn't get a video out last night. I got home so late, and I was knackered. Honestly, I don't know how the players felt because I'm still feeling it now. Absolutely exhausted, but what a win. We had to get it done. If we'd lost that penalty shootout, oh, it would have been brutal. It would have been absolutely brutal. But I do think we deserve to win the tie over the two legs. I do think we deserved it, but we had to battle. We had to battle. And look, in some ways, I say credit Porto. The way that they played, the dark arts, all of that stuff, it was the only way that they could even take us to penalties and give themselves that chance. On the other hand, I don't like it. I didn't enjoy either game. I thought both games were poor because of what they did, the time wasting and all the nonsense. But I don't really want to talk about that too much. I want to talk about the Arsenal team. I want to talk about the Emirates, the atmosphere, the mentality of the squad, and David Raya to come through that penalty shootout. And look, for me, I actually think, of course, it would have been nice to just have a comfortable 3-0 win and move on. It would have removed, some of the doubt that people have now got, oh, you needed penalties to beat Porto. But for me, there is actually a long-term benefit to this in the sense that was a real pressure moment. And Arsenal had to get through a moment like that. I don't think we've been through a moment like that yet, and we did. We came out the other side. And so if we're in that position again in the future, that's an experience in the bank. Next time we get there, there's not a doubt of all we failed. We failed last time. So massive, massive win. And look, we'll talk about the game. Obviously, I've not watched the full game back yet. I've seen some of the highlights. I was furious at the referee for most of the game. I can't lie. I thought he was really poor. People are saying he let the game flow. I didn't feel like he did let the game. I felt like he let it flow one way. I felt like every time a Porto player went down, they won the foul. He stopped play multiple times for non-head injuries. I was getting very, very frustrated by him. But some people think that he did a good job. In terms of some of the key decisions that I think he got wrong, the second goal we scored, it never goes to penalties if this goal counts. And look, Havertz has a small hold of his shirt there. He's not pulling it away from Pepe. I don't think what Havertz does there affects Pepe in any way. And for the goal to get disallowed for that, I thought was incredibly harsh. But what frustrated me even more was that after that goal got disallowed, the same exact thing happened to Ødegaard from Pepe in the final couple of minutes. Ødegaard goes down, no penalty. So I couldn't really understand how this was a foul, but it wasn't when it was the other way around. And there were lots of examples throughout. I mean, Porto were embarrassing. Let's be real. One of their players got stretchered off for cramp. And you know what? He has to live with that for the rest of his life. He has to live with that. That'd be like a dark secret that he keeps from his grandkids, that he never wants them to find out, that he got stretchered off in front of the world for cramp to go on and lose anyway. It was embarrassing. Look, Pepe, by the way, what a monster. I mean, I don't know if he's on something because at 41 years old, even in the 120th minute, he looked completely unfazed, didn't look tired. A monster. Fair play to him. Outside of that, obviously there's been backlash after the game from Conceição, the Porto manager. Now, of course, he gave it large after they beat us. When they beat us in the first leg, he was given, they came here to play, we came here to win. Well, second leg, what did you come to do? Because you didn't come to play and you didn't win. But after that, he's basically made up a pack of lies about Mikel Arteta, saying that Arteta turned to the bench. I'll make that bigger so you can see it. Turned to the bench during the game and insulted my family in Spanish. I told him the person he insulted is no longer among us. A long conversation to have on the bench, by the way. Let him worry about training his team, which has more than enough quality to play a lot better. We do have enough quality to play a lot better. Unfortunately, you and your team had no intention of playing football. But it turns out he is the boy that cried wolf, because it turns out he does this every time he loses. When they lost in 2021 to Chelsea, he came out and said Thomas Tuchel insulted him at full time. I was insulted by the gentleman who is next door. And there's also another one that I'm not going to hear of. He did the exact same thing with Pep Guardiola when Man City beat them. So I have absolutely no respect for this clown. He is an absolute clown. He gave it big ones after they won, and he couldn't be humble in defeat. And instead of talking about his own team's performance, he decided to make up a pack of lies about Mikel Arteta. Incredibly embarrassing man, and I hope I never see him again. Have fun traveling back to Portugal. Fraud. But now to talk about the good things, the highlights, the Arsenal team, the Arsenal players. And I've highlighted some players here that for me were outstanding. And of course, David Raya is a big one of those. Massive performance from him. That for me could be a career-defining performance at Arsenal, because as much as lots of us were on, are on Raya's side. Of course, he's our keeper, and lots of us have kind of, accepted that David Raya probably is the better keeper for us and will be our keeper going forwards. There's still, a fairly big section of the fan base that are behind Aaron Ramsdale and think that this was the wrong decision. And I think last night was crucial for David Raya to win some of those people over. And if there are still people that aren't won over by David Raya, then I don't know what more he can do. Made a couple of big saves during the game. On the ball, he was great all game. Arguably even before the penalty shootout, he's one of the best players on the pitch. And then to come up with two huge penalty saves. I mean, the one from Wendell, which is the one that really wins us the penalty shootout because it puts us ahead, it puts us on the front foot. It's an unbelievable save. Fingertips onto the post. And then he makes another big one. I mean, I was buzzing. I'm somewhere just behind where this is happening. I was behind that goal, which was an amazing experience. And massive credit to Raya. And do you know what he came out and said in his interview after the game? He was annoyed at himself that he didn't save three because he got a hand to the other. And that is the sort of mentality that Arteta is ingraining in our players and that our players are coming to the club with. Saved two penalties, won the penalty shootout, but he's annoyed that he didn't save three. I mean, it's mega. It is mega. On to another one, Kai Havertz for me. Kai Havertz was excellent. And for me, he's the one that's maybe not been singled out and spoken about after the game. 120 minutes of relentless running. Played as a centre forward, then went back and played as the 8. I don't think people still even appreciate how difficult that is to do. Playing two completely different roles within the same game. And he was all over the pitch. He was running. A lot of the time he was the only outlet, the long ball that he was winning. And then he shoved that arsehole as well, which was just a delight to see. He probably is one of the players we've got that can do the dark arts as well. So a big game for him. And then his penalty. When he stepped up for that penalty, the second penalty, I was thinking, he's done so well over the last few weeks to get a lot of the supporters on side to turn around the narrative about him at the club. And I was just thinking, God, if he misses this, it'll almost undo all of that work. It shouldn't, because it's a penalty and it can go either way. But if he misses it, it would undo all that work. And he was nonchalant, absolutely cool, calm, collected, and slotted it away. So big for him. Another one for me was Jakub Kiwior. Who again, he's coming to the side, and he was a monster last night. Defensively, he had a tough job. He had a tough job last night, and I thought he was really, really good. And I'd argue when Zinchenko came on, of course he had a different role to play, but he didn't look as secure at all as Jakub Kiwior did. So big performance from him. And then the final one, El Capitan, Martin Ødegaard, dragged us through it. Realistically, the assist for the goal, look at it. Just look at the amount of players that are around it. Look at where Trossard is here. He's got one player on his heels, and then he's got three other Porto players, and he finds the gap perfectly. And even before that, the way he rolled this defender and moved to his left, I mean, it was absolutely magic from Martin Ødegaard. And all game, he was relentlessly running, never stopped running, never stopped, keeping up the momentum that we had. Arguably, should have had a goal that was disallowed, could have won a penalty that should have been given, and took the first penalty, buried it. I mean, it was a proper captain's performance from Martin Ødegaard. So I'm absolutely buzzing for him. And look, let's be honest, there were some performances around the pitch that were not to their usual level. And I don't know if that was the pressure, well, we'll name check them. There's no harm in name checking players when they don't have the best performance. I thought Bukayo Saka was off it a bit last night. Now, I do think Wendell was absolutely superb. So I do think, as much as Saka wasn't at his best, I think a lot of credit has to go to Wendell, who over both legs was brilliant. But Saka wasn't quite at it last night. But in the crucial moment, he stepped up for his penalty. And again, when he stepped up for his penalty. I was thinking, yeah, he'll probably know he's not had a great game. Is his confidence going to be there? Wow. It was the most confident penalty of any of them. Absolute bullet into the bottom corner. So that was big from him. Saliba, I thought, looked a bit shaky as well. And I think there you're looking at two players who are younger. They are younger. They are less experienced. And this is something that will grow and develop with them. But whilst they, perhaps didn't have their best performances, other players around them stepped up, and that was massive. And so now, look, we are into the final eight, and that was big for us. Even if we go out now in the final eight, I mean, I hope we don't, of course. But going out in the 16, that would have been a real blow. To do it to Porto, where we were the favourites. I look at the final eight now, and I do think we're favourites against a lot of the final eight. But they are still, what you consider big clubs, that if they beat us, the narrative wouldn't be so bad. Obviously, you've already got PSG, Bayern, Real Madrid, Manchester City, Barcelona, Arsenal, and then I expect tonight you'll end up seeing Inter Milan and Borussia Dortmund through. I mean, that's a mammoth final eight. It really is a crazy final eight. And it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting, but I do feel like this was the pressure game. This was the pressure game, and I feel like the next tie won't have that sort of pressure quite as much. Another thing, I'm glad that we don't play Chelsea this weekend. We complained. Or not complained, but we felt like not having Chelsea this weekend was frustrating. It would have been at a good time. No. after that game, both the physical and mental energy that was consumed by that game, and then the adrenaline dump that the players will be feeling today. I assume the players have been given a day off today. And all of that combined, if we had to then get ourselves back up for Chelsea at the weekend, I think that would be difficult. So in hindsight, that might have been quite a fortunate thing to happen for us. But we're through, and I am delighted. And I might go back to bed after I upload this, to be quite honest with you. But I will be live at 6:30, as always, later on the channel. I hope to see as many of you there as possible. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. Smash a like on the video before you jump off. And yeah, I will catch you at 6:30 or on the next video. Until then, have a fantastic day and goodbye.